What's up, y'all? It's your man Ernest, or You Love Ernest, back again with another episode. I thought someone was coming through my door. They was about to get the Second Amendment. Anyways, I'm not a joking about that. But anyways, man, throw me off my game. I'm not even gonna cut this out. What's up, y'all? It's your man Ernest, or You Love Ernest, back again with another episode of the Ernest Thoughts Podcast. Yes, please practice your Second Amendment right. It is your right. Um, Safely and legally, of course. But anyways, that's not what this episode is about. It's about myriad of topics, obviously, because that's what we do over here at the Ernest Thoughts Podcast. So let's get into the first topic. I wanted to talk about Candace Owens once again, and just the stuff that she has recently said about DEI. Now, for those who don't know what DEI stands for, it is diversity, equality, and inclusion. Now, DEI is a term that obviously I just told you what it means, but it is meant to promote diversity, equality, and what? Inclusion. So I don't mean to speak to y'all, but like some kindergartners, but a lot of y'all got kindergarten minds out there in attention span. So you got to sometimes. But anyways, so Candace Owens is back and she's speaking up against DEI, which once again means I'm not gonna tell y'all again. If you don't know what it means, I already told y'all twice in the matter of the last 2 seconds or so or whatever. But so she is against it, and I don't, this is not me saying, oh, she's a horrible person because she's against it. Here's my thing about Candace Owens, and I've said this in the past. Candace Owens knows what the hell she's doing. All right. She is definitely, she found her lane, or she found a lane. I won't even say it's her lane because it's not her lane. I still don't believe that she truly feels and believes a lot of the things that she peddles, that she says. But I feel as though she's found a lane to make money, especially within a space where there's not many black women or black speakers talking about saying the talking points that they say over there on the conservative side, which goes into my point and why I have the title the way that it is. The irony of it all being that this woman is against diversity, equality, and inclusion, and her reason pretty much being because it just handpicks black people or minorities, someone of a minority group, and says you get this position not because of your qualifications, but simply because you fit the description of what we need here. We want to look woke, or we don't want to look racist. We don't want to look sexist. We don't want to look homophobic or queer phobic. We don't want to look Islamophobic. We don't want to look fat phobic. We don't want to look whatever phobic, right? So therefore, this is in their mind. This is their mind being the conservatives. This is what they think happens when people are choosing, when they're hiring people who are of minority groups. They're thinking they're picking some random rando off the street because random rando Randy fits the description of someone black or someone queer, or random rando Randy happens to identify as a woman. So random Randy is transgendered. So let's take random rando Randy off the street and put them in this position because they fit these boxes that we want to tick off. This is what Candace Owens, and she knows that's not the case, but this is what she's peddling, and this is what a number of her conservative pundits peddle as well, and they also know that it's not the case per se of what DEI is actually. DEI is pretty much, again, it's supposed to promote diversity. I get that. But they're not picking some random Randy off the street and saying, we're giving you a job, Randy, simply because you fit the description of what we're looking for in a candidate. Randy still has to have the qualifications to fulfill whatever position that Randy is being considered for. If Randy doesn't fit that description, it will be unwise of any business to put Randy in a position of put Randy in that position, whether it's a leadership position or whatever position it is. It would be unwise of any job to put a random Randy in that position if Randy can't do the damn job. If Randy is unqualified to do the dang job, you know? So it makes sense. It wouldn't make sense, you know, to just pick some random person off the street once again and put them in these positions. This discussion is coming off of something, I forget the guy's name, but he made a comment about how he questions the qualifications of a black. He recently took a flight and he noticed that the pilot was black, and instantly what popped up in his mind was, is this pilot qualified? He then shortly after that said, I know I'm trying to stop thinking like that. Like I know I shouldn't think that way. So at least that person, and I'm forgetting their name because I'm unfamiliar with who they are. Like that, like I think his name is Chris something. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I think it's Chris something. Either or, I remember the comments, or at least I'm paraphrasing what he is saying. And what he pretty much said was, I saw a black pilot and I instantly thought, oh, man, I hope he's qualified. But then instantly after that, he was like, no, I shouldn't think that way simply because the pilot is black. And he shouldn't. Chris shouldn't think that. Candace Owens backed him up and defended him and was like, if his name is Chris, by the way, but Candace Owens backed him up and was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. I feel the same way, and I am black. She always does this. She always does this. Now, again, the irony of it all, which I've heard a few people talk about this, but it's like very few people have made this point, which I think it's mind boggling because it's like it's the most obvious point. Look at Candace Owens, simply because she makes arguments like a white conservative woman would make, doesn't make her a white conservative woman. You see the appearance, you see that gorgeousness, but no, you see the appearance of Candace Owens. Get her outer beauty out of, like, she's a beautiful woman, real gorgeous woman. You know what I'm saying? But you see what she's a black woman. She identifies herself as a black woman. You know, she she identifies as a woman because she is well, she's a woman. She identifies as a woman. Let me feel it that way. Um, and she's in the position that she's in right now. Candace, congratulations. You are a child of DEI. You are a byproduct of diversity, equality, and inclusion. You go, girl. What? How do you not see that? How do you not see that the same argument that you're making now? Candace is going to get offended by that because she's going to say, "No, I'm qualified to talk about these things. I got this job. I got this job because I'm qualified for it." So you seem to be the only black person that's qualified to do your job, Candace. Is what you're saying? Because you and your conservative buddies and pundits and co-workers and such tend to think that anybody non-white who gets a position that is traditionally given to a white man is unqualified, and they only got that job because the hiring managers or the business or the corporation wanted to fulfill some boxes. One can make that argument about you, Candace. In fact, conservatives have made it clear that you and other black pundits are that. Which is the funny thing about conservatives is they will argue against things that they themselves practice themselves. We've already talked about this in the past about the hypocrisy of the conservative, mindset, or just the right wing party. Not to say that the left wing isn't hypocritical. I talk about them all the time, but that does not mean I'm not going to notice when the right wingers or conservatives are being the same hypocrites. Candace Owens, if you truly believe that you got the positions that you got your little, I don't know if Prager University, if she's still even associated with Prager University, but I know she used to speak for them and she probably was like an honorary professor there or whatever the case is, right? But Prager hired you, Candace, because they're like, let's get that black woman to talk about how systematic racism isn't real. It wasn't let's get a white person to make these arguments. It wasn't that. It was let's get a black person. And you know who's the most reliable black Republican that we know? Candace Owens. Diversity and quality. Equality. I said inequality. Equality and inclusion. You go, girl. But for real, like that's what happened, Candace, and you can't see that. And hopefully this video gets to you or this audio gets to you and you understand that when you make these arguments, she's a smart girl. She's not only just a gorgeous woman, she is a very smart person as well. Let's not get it fucked up. You might not agree with Candace Owens, but she is no dummy. She's no dummy. And if I've said so in the past, I was being a dummy. She is no dummy. You don't have to agree simply because you disagree with. You don't have. There are certain things that she argues that you're like, that's a stupid argument. Yeah, sure, you can say that. But dummies don't know their arguments are stupid and will continue to argue them as if they're sound arguments. Now, people are like, that's what Candace is doing, and that's what her colleagues are doing. But they know certain things that they say is stupid. But they have a base to uphold to. They have a reputation to uphold to. All of these pundits do. They'll act naive to certain things simply because they have a base and a reputation to uphold to. I was just talking about Tucker Carlson. I was tweeting about him, not necessarily talking about it, but this whole shift that he is doing right now, where it seems as though this could be a front too, and I've noted that, but it seems as though right now that he's not working for Fox or some other big right wing entity, right? It seems as though he is not only covering the topics he really wanted to cover, but he's actually making a talking points that he really wants to make. Tucker Carlson, look at Tucker Carlson's content now, and look at it from now compared to years ago when he was on Fox before he got dropped. Right? I won't say it's night and day, but it's night and afternoon. I'm gonna put it that way. It's night and afternoon. It's like, you know, at certain parts of the afternoon, the sun is still out. You know what I'm saying? But it's still afternoon. It's still the PM time, and the nighttime is obviously still PM time. So it's not like morning and night, but it's definitely night and afternoon, where there's still remnants of, I guess, old Tucker in his current content, but it's totally different times. It's a totally different, him. Um, One is more bearable than the other. Maybe depending on how you feel, maybe you still are a big fan. If you are a fan of him in the past, you're still a big fan of him now. Maybe you felt like he's gone woke or he's gone soft. Whatever the case is, it's afternoon and night with Tucker Carlson. And I bring him up because of the point I was making about I feel as though, there are times where people are going to start to argue how they or say how they really feel because they're not constrained to some business or some some fake university or some place or whatever that says you have to argue these points. And I feel I'm not going to call this for Candace Owens. She's a mother, uh, and she's a black woman. So, despite if I agree with her or not, I'm not going to call for her to get fired. But let's just say if she were to get dropped from this, whatever, whoever she's working for now, she's not independent now, right? I'm sure she will do what Tucker Carlson is doing right now and was like, I'm just going to do my own thing where I'm not going to be fed talking points. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. So I'm not going to be told what I can talk about. And I'm not going to be reading off no teleprompters and stuff. This is if I am reading off a teleprompter, again, this is stuff that I want to say, stuff that I want to talk about. Not to say that that wasn't the case when he was on Fox, but again, night and afternoon, the content that he's covering now wasn't the content he was talking about on Fox, or at least not in its totality. I see a lot of, the content that he's doing now. Fox News wouldn't dare touch that stuff. Wouldn't dare want him to speak about it. They call him woke, or they say you're getting soft, or you're sounding like a liberal, right? You're sounding like a libtard, or whatever the case is. When I feel as though he's actually being more of a centrist than most centrists claim to be. You know what I'm saying? That's just my take on it. But I feel like if Candace was in the same position, God forbid, if she was ever to be in the same position, that's when we will get the real Candace about how she truly feels about stuff. Because the same person that claims systematic racism isn't real and racism is just something we all made up can't be the same individual who sued a school for racially for she said she was discriminated against because of her race. But if it's not real, why are you suing the school because of racism? Like for real. So it's like she knows that, oh, this might not be something she wants to admit to, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I have no obligations to coddle her feelings. You're a gorgeous woman, but you ain't my woman. So I don't got a reason to coddle your feelings, baby girl. Anyways, with that being said, you are definitely a victim or a byproduct, you can put it that way, of DEI, which once again, folks, stands for diversity, equality, and inclusion. So yeah. For y'all who are, arguing against it, and yet you put her in this position simply because she was the black voice that was saying the things that you want to say, but you wanted a black person to say the things so it doesn't make you look racist. Congratulations, you had nominated somebody simply because of their race and their sexuality. Boom. Do you really think that you nominated Candace Owens? Again, Candace Owens being the only qualifying black person to hold the position that she has. Do you really think that is the reason why you got her up in her position? It's because she was the best candidate that you can think of. Now, she probably is truly the best candidate. Like I said, this is no slouch. She is not a dummy. She might say some stupid stuff from time to time and make stupid arguments, but she is not a dummy. She's not a dummy. Um, and she knows how to play the game. Two things a dummy would not know how to do: not know when to not know their arguments are dumb, and not know how to play the games. You know what I'm saying? Um, but even with all of that being said, she is still a byproduct of DEI. Now, I believe that she is qualified to, do what she does. I'm not questioning her qualifications at all. But y'all who are against DEI say that anybody black, anybody non-white male, anybody non-straight, anybody non-Christian only gets the positions that they get simply because there's a quota that has to be filled, or a company wants to look a certain way, or don't want to look a certain way. But you don't apply these things to yourself, which is why it may sound like I'm arguing in circles, because I'm really trying to drive home the point that y'all do the thing that you're claiming. Whatever that airline, what was it, Spirit? It was it not Spirit. It might have been Spirit Airlines. One of the airlines made it clear that, yeah, when we're doing the hiring process for pilots, yeah, we definitely are looking for a more diverse type of. So yeah, these a black pilot is going to stand out to us more than a white pilot. Sorry, that we're just looking for, to diversify our staff, you know. But they're not gonna pick a random Randy. If like I said, random rando Randy. If Randy doesn't know how to fly a plane, they're not gonna say, Randy, you're a black man or a black person. Get up on this plane and fly it. They're not gonna do that. No company that respects itself, is actually gonna just hire somebody on the basis of filling out a quota. Anybody, without looking to see if that individual even is a qualified candidate to fit said position. If you do that, you're asking to fail. And if you're a big airline, I don't hear good things about Spirit Airline or whatever airline it was, but whether it was American Airline, JetBlue, Spirit, whatever the case is, the Soul Plane airline, if you're hiring candidates who are just not people who are qualified to do the job, that's money that you are losing out on. That's bad PR, that's bad publicity. That's just all around bad failure. And these businesses, no matter how woke they, and I'm not gonna say that people or some of these businesses don't try to um seem as though they are, more inclusive than they really are. There's not I'm not to say that what Candace argued and what a lot of these other Republicans argue as well, that there isn't a little bit of speckle of merit within their arguments. But I've made it clear before on this podcast, everybody says something that I can agree with. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything that you say. You can, again, everything. I'm looking right out this window right now, right? I don't know what this person is doing. They trying to park their car, but they look like a plum flu right now. A plum flu. I look like a plum flu, calling them a plum flu. But no, they look like a plum fool right now. They got it right now, but it took them like a good 2 minutes just to back up and park in the parking space. Meanwhile, they almost caused a crash because there was another car coming. This is them, the plum fool, right? Or the plum flu coming in. This is them. And this car is waiting on them and had got the patience of, me. So they're just waiting. And but this person is like just doing this. And for the YouTube watchers, you can see what I'm doing. But the audio listeners, imagine a plum flu in a car trying to back into a parking spot and don't know how to back into a parking spot to park the car, and you're the other car. That was the scenario I was thinking of. But I brought that up just to say there's a lot of people who are unqualified out here, you know, driving cars, um, being political pundits. Maybe one could say unqualified podcasters or YouTube content creators, or unqualified to talk about something or teach something. Especially a lot of these relationship guru folks, which I'm not saying I'm qualified to talk about relationships, but my latest book or ebook or re-release of an ebook, my first book actually, relationship advice from a nobody. You can find that in the description box below. Just look in the title that says my books. You can find both of my ebooks there, and Yes, more books coming soon. So, anyways, um, it's there are unqualified people who hold positions who have, you know, a say in stuff, or are simply just out on the road. Like this plum flu out there, you know? But um let's be real. If you're going to have this mindset, once again, I'm going to make the point and then I'm going to go off to the next topic. If you're going to have this mindset that DEI is this just totally bad thing, right? And I'm gonna share my thoughts about DEI before I close out. But if you have this mindset that is just this totally bad thing, Candace Owens and other black pundits, whether you're from the left or the right, before you speak on it, you have to then consider yourself. And it's not even just the black ones, it's the ones who are of minority class, as the term is, right? If you are of that class, you truly have to think about yourself when you are talking about these situations. Because Candace, if you pull a Candace, you're like, yeah, black people are only getting these positions because they're black. So you're saying you only got your position because you're black, Candace? I would beg to differ that she would argue differently. I would not. It would be a cold day in heaven if Candace was like, "Yeah, I got this job because I'm a black woman who speaks against racism," and meaning that I speak against racism being real. You know, I would be hella shocked that she knows that, but then she still continues to. And when I say know that, no, meaning that she knows that these people are just using her for their, just to not look racist, right? As the she gets it girl. I would be really surprised to say, and you're cool with that because they're giving you money. Can't be making that much money. You're making a lot of money, but you can't be making that much money to the point where, well, it's subjective. A lot of money is different for, you know, some folks. Some folks are okay with, I'm not saying these are Candace's numbers, but you tell some folks, hey, you get paid 70K a year. That's a lot of money to some folks. Some folks is like, I want more. Some folks are saying 100K a year is not a lot. 100K is a lot to me. I can tell you that I've never seen 100,000 of anything in my lifetime. So that's a lot. But I know it's all subjective. Some people say that's not enough. So whatever she's getting paid, it might be enough for her to say, yeah, this is cool for me. But I don't think that she would admit to or ever say, yeah, I am a byproduct of DEI. What she and others like her will say is, no, I got this position because I'm qualified for it. And then they'll start listing all their qualifications and all this other stuff, right? But you seem to think you're the only black person who's qualified for anything. You seem to think you're the only black woman or a woman, period, who's qualified for anything. And when you all make these arguments, it's that's what you're saying. And to again, the conservatives who don't believe in DEI, but would push a Candace Owens, who is a byproduct of a DEI, and you all know it, you're BSing. Now, my personal thoughts about diversity, equality, and inclusion. I think that it is one of those things like with many of the buzzwords, if when you use certain words, especially together, it becomes one of those things where the enforcers try to make it hard to argue against. Now, I am not against diversity, equality, and inclusion. Not at all. But I am definitely for hiring the best candidate for any position. Don't just hire me because I'm black. If I'm truly not the best candidate, go with whoever the best candidate is, whether that be a white man, a white woman, a non-white man or woman, a non-man, a non-woman, someone who identifies as simply just a Z. I don't know, but go with the best person. Go with the best person. Don't hold my race and my sexuality, my religion, my gender. Don't hold that against me when considering positions. That's all I'm asking for. I don't want to be hired based on the merit of my skin tone or my religion, sexual orientation, you know, sex, gender identification. I want to be hired because I'm the best candidate for said position. And I just knocked it out the park at the interview or whatever the case is, right? You know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's wrong to say don't hold my identity against me, but don't also let it be something, don't let it be the reason as to why you hire me. Unless, and here is where, let me take a sip before, but here is where it's okay to throw in extra stuff as well. Unless there's a specific role that you're trying to fulfill. Let's just say there's this group home, right? Full of children. Um, and there's a lot of female staff within this group home. The kids within this home can be very violent. They can be very, especially the boys can be very violent, both verbally and physically. Hiring more males in that position. Not to say that women aren't strong and they can't take a punch and they can't subdue a little boy or children when they are acting, you know, out of line and stuff, right? Not to say women can't do that, but in a situation like that, if you hire more males who present themselves in a more dominant way, not abusive, but one who can appropriately find himself in a situation like that and then be able to de-escalate it, that is a situation where hiring more males is, or just hiring someone based on the premise, well, not 100% based, because again, that male still has to be qualified. You can get a lot of these dudes out here, a lot of these emotionally based dudes out here who react emotionally and will be just as childish as the child. And the reason why that's obviously not right, because you have an adult male and a little boy. The little boy is acting exactly what is expected of this little boy or little girl to act like. They're a child. So they're going to behave like a child would, especially if that child is in a group home for whatever reasons. And it's typically not a good reason. It's typically trauma there already. So they're going to act like that. Whereas you're a grown man, you shouldn't be acting like this child because of you're in this intense emotional situation. So again, you still have to make sure that whoever you're hiring is both emotionally intelligent and qualified to even fulfill fulfill said role. But also, you need to take into a situation like I just gave, the example I just gave, you should take into the account the gender. Now, again, you do have emotionally intelligent women, physically and emotionally strong women who can, again, in those situations, handle it with appropriate tact. But if it's a situation, and I'm saying I'm using this situation because I've been told this about me, where it's like, yeah, we hired you because you're great. You do have a lot of qualifications, but also we just need a male in this room right now because of we got, this boy, he can be very, he can be aggressive and we need a male that can set him straight, appropriately, obviously, but we need a male to do that. And maybe if they see a male, they're going to be less reluctant to respond back in an aggressive tone or whatever the case is. And I can tell you from experience, that is absolutely right. Whether it be myself or the presence of some other men or whatever, in these situations, the especially with the young boys, they tend to know that, okay, I can't act this way, when Mr. Ernest is around, or Mr. Whoever is around. You know what I'm saying? If Randy from off the street, because Randy is actually qualified for this position here, if Mr. Randy is around, I can't act this way toward Mr. Randy. I can't act this way toward Mr. Ernest. And he's telling me, or they both are telling me that I shouldn't act this way toward the females in charge as well. And therefore, maybe it's going to stick to me more because there's a man telling me. I'm not saying it's right. Children should listen to, no matter who is the gender telling them what to do and what not to do. They should listen. But these things happen. People will tend, and adults do this too. We will tend to listen to people we can identify with. And meaning that even if it's an identifier of having the same genitalia, we're a lot more likely to listen to them than we are someone else of a different genitalia. That's just how humans are wired, whether you're a kid or not. This was kind of tangential in a way. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't, because it was still on the vein of hiring qualified candidates. But I say all that just to say my stance on DEI. I'm not against it in the sense that if you want to look into candidates, race, gender, or some other different thing that makes them a minority, I guess, and say we need more of this within our business, and you fit the qualifications, I don't think it's wrong, as long as you're not treating that individual as like their pet or the token, right? Now, if you want more of this to represent your brand or whatever the case is, and I'm just massaging my trap over here, people, for those who are watching, you know, um, feels good like a mug, but nah, like if you want your brand to represent that and all that, or just the business, or you just simply just want to walk into your place of work and you want to see that, you have a right to do so. Don't let the Candace Owens of the world tell you or try to guilt trip you into not doing so. Meanwhile, we all know why Candace has her job, why she's had her jobs in the past. We all know why the other black Republicans have their jobs and had their jobs in the past. Diversity, equality, inclusion, and not want to look racist. The very thing that they want to say is woke, they are very guilty of. And that is the funniest thing about this whole DEI argument. That is the really funniest thing, is it's like y'all are guilty. Like, and it's not a surprise, but it's real funny because it's like y'all are so guilty of this. It's laughable. And y'all are pretending like you're not guilty of it. If Candace Owens was not black and talking about systematic racism isn't real, she'd only be famous on Twitter. She wouldn't be on TV. She wouldn't be at PragerU, you know, telling, teaching courses or doing seminars there. None of that. So let's cut the S. I cut the ish, because you already know what it is. All right. Candidates, if you truly believe that you got your job because you're qualified for it, and simply because I don't believe she got her job because she's was qualified for it, doesn't mean I don't think she's qualified. Like I said, I believe she's qualified to do the damn thing, but I don't think that's the reason why she got the job. I think she got the job because I'm not going to say DEI, but I am going to say because of DEI reasons, because she is a black woman, specifically a black woman peddling racism isn't real. So, yeah, DEI is a mug, right? Anyways, I've gone on long enough with this topic. We'll get a break and then we'll get into the next topic. Stay tuned.